Hi, I'm Tim. Join me as we take this Lite Ranger foam board model that I built and we'll draw a set of plans in Qcad. I'll take you step by step. Let's get to it. This is a lightweight foam board model I made. I called it the Lite Ranger. It was an experiment to make a lightweight aircraft. The wing is absolutely flat. It's saran wrap covering it with a glue stick to put on the saran wrap. Did a little bit of experimenting with flaperons. But this went together pretty quickly. There's nothing fancy about the model. I literally had a set of hand-drawn plans, which I'll show up here. And what we're going to do in this video is I'll take all the measurements off of this because it flew absolutely great. And I will take you step by step with Qcad, a computer-aided design program for your computer. Very affordable program, $40 for the whole thing. And I'll take you step by step drawing a set of plans for this model in Qcad. The plans are available in the description if you'd like to download them. So before we get into Qcad, let's take a quick look to see how this plane flew, and then we'll go to the computer drawing board with Qcad.
Let me know. Press. Oh, yeah, you did it. That's amazing. Well, let's try it a little bit.
This is the finished Lite Ranger 1. It is just an incredibly simple airplane, quick build. I wanted to try out the flat wing with no dihedral saran wrap covering just to see if the thing would fly. You can still draw plans with pen and paper. This is the sketch I did, the detailed sketch for the Lite Ranger flyer that eventually went to build the model, then translated into this, which are the completed Qcad plans, which I'll take you step by step in this video. If you wish to learn how to use Qcad to draw plans, it's really pretty easy to do. So we open up the Qcad drawing area. This is the line tool, and what I do for a plane like the Lite Ranger, which is a lot of straight lines on it, there's very few curves on it, I draw a series of vertical and horizontal lines and use a parallel line tool to sketch out what the model is going to look like. I'll kind of walk you to do that. One of the nice things about Qcad is any number of ways to use the program, but the parallel line tool, it looks a little bit complicated initially, but it works after fashion. Here I have selected one of the lines and making it just a little bit shorter at 1 feet 12 inches long. And we'll use a series of commands to make the lines go parallel to this to eventually draw out the fuselage side. So I select the parallel line tool again. Very easy to put the distance on here. This is 2 inches. This will be 2 inches up from the bottom. And this will be an intersection point to draw the eventual outline of the fuselage. Again, to move around the drawing, I hold down on my Mac the command key, left mouse button, and I can put the center the drawing any way that I like. Again, this is a 3-inch distance. That'll be the leading edge of the wing. And 5.5 is the wingspan itself, and then 9 inches will be the rear of the airplane. Now I can use the breakout segment tool to trim that up, and we have a little bit neater drawing that we then use to complete the fuselage. This will make sense as you see things go in. Now another line goes up 1 inch from the bottom, and I can draw a line from the intersection to the nose. That's the lower part of the nose gear. Right click to get rid of that. Now I'll use the breakout segment tool to trim this. Just left click, and this is one entity. I can just left click that and delete. And the line tool again from the rear of the bottom of the fuselage to the tail, and the breakout segment, click to get rid of that. Go back to the reset tool, select that line, hit delete, and now you can start seeing the shape of the fuselage coming into view. This is drawing the 3/16 inch block that provides a positive instance for the wing. And then once that's in place with the line tool, I simply draw the bottom of the wing, and I can trim that out just to make it a little bit neater where it slopes down from that incidence. The positive incidence does seem to help the model fly a lot better. We use the parallel line tool 3/16 inch, that's the width of the foam board, and we have the top part of the wing with the line tool, snaps very easily to the end points of those lines, and this will be the top of the wing for the light flyer. Again, I'm using the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. Now this is an example of the divide tool. I need to divide this line into just this lower segment to change the shape of the line to a dashed line, which is inside the fuselage. First we'll do a parallel line, 3/16 inch, to show the width of the foam board for former F2 in this case. We'll do the same for F3, they're both the same size. Now I can go to the idle reset. I can select just this segment. You can see the dots. We go to the property menus and I can change it to a continuous dashed line to show the line inside the fuselage. And we do that for former F3 as well. Again, very easy with the property letters to make it, property menu to make it a continuous dashed line. So now I can see the fuselage coming into view. And again, I'm just sketching in the last former F4 at this point. I'll use the parallel tool again, 3/16 inch, to draw that. And then as before with the property menu, and make it a dashed line. We go back to the reset and we'll make that a dashed line for the former F1 by the nose of the aircraft. So again, a very simple design. We can see how it's coming along. We'll add the top hatch covering for the fuselage. I glue that in place, add a little bit of strength to the front of the airplane, just using 3/16 inch for the parallel tool for the width of the foam board. And then we'll use the breakout segment to trim that as needed. So now we're doing some work on the tail. Again, we're using the stabilizer as a 3/16 inch foam board. We use a parallel line tool for that. The elevator is about 1 inch. We extend that out, use the breakout segment to trim that. And we use a parallel line tool again, 3.5 inches. That'll be the front of the stabilizer, the leading edge of the stabilizer. And then we can use a breakout segment to trim that up as well. Just again, left click on all these extended lines just to neaten up the drawing. The measurement tools are always good just to take a check to see how things are going along. It picks up the intersection and we can see that it's 3.5 inches long, so that's a good thing to check your drawings as you go along to make sure the measurements are matching up to what you intended to do. I'm using the line tool to put in a 45-degree bevel for the leading edge of the elevator so it can go down. Once that's in place, we'll take the breakout segment and left click to clean up those lines. Left click here and left click here, and you can see the bevel at the hinge line for the elevator. Now we're going to start drawing the vertical fin. Draw a vertical line here, and I kind of sketch it in. You can use the properties, the angle, to make sure it's exactly 9 degrees, and that makes it straight up at that time. And again, it's kind of eyeballing this, the shape of the rudder, the parallel line tool to make the top of the fin, the parallel line tool to make the rudder, and then just use the line tool to bring it on down for the leading edge of the fin and the back of the rudder as shown here. The Light Flyer 2, I did mine 3 channels with ailerons, actually flaperons, elevator, and throttle. I'm going to make another version with 3 channels just to see how the rudder and elevator works on this, so you can use it as a 3-channel or a 4-channel. It's easy to do, and I'm just going to draw a rudder in for this example of the Lite Ranger 1. So this is a sketch of the fin and rudder. We can clean it up with the breakout segment tool. And even in this case, I wanted just a little bit different shape to the vertical stabilizer, so I just changed the leading edge there. Again, very easy to do with the CAD program to explore different shapes of your airplane. Note that the fuselage bottom half is open. There's no foam board, just to make it a little bit as light as possible. Now we can draw in the 1/16 inch plywood firewall, again using the parallel tool, and use it again for the top one, connect it with the line tool, and that's just a little bit more completion for the diagram. The 1/16 inch plywood is necessary for the foam board on front of the aircraft. Now we're using the dimension tools. Very easy to click in each end. This is 5.5 inches. You just click anywhere you want to show the dimensions. Most model airplane plans don't have the dimensions on them because they're printed out full size to build. A lot of viewers will not print these models out full size. With these drawings, it's very easy to do measurements, draw it out on the foam board, and there's no need for a full-size printout of the plan. But again, you can see with the dimension tools just how easy this is to do in Qcad for whatever dimensions you want on the airplane. So now I'll select the dimensioned fuselage. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it underneath. And what I'm going to do is, just for the complete set of plans, have a version without the dimensions on it, because they can clutter up the plan a little bit, just so builders can see both versions of the fuselage plan with dimensions and without the dimensions. And again, if you download the DWG file, you can print it out full size. The full download is available in the description of the model. Now I have another file called RC Components where I draw servos and motors. So this is the Park 250 motor. I simply select that, I copy it, I go back to the Lite Ranger drawing, left click with the mouse, and see paste. And what I'll do is I will paste the motor up to the front of the model. Now, still trying to snap to the grid. I'll go to remove the grid so I can put the motor anywhere. And this is just more a illustration rather than any precision, just what the motor would look like on the model. But the motor is drawn completely to the correct size. It is the right size for the model, so you can see what that looks like in the drawing. I'll do the same thing for the center of gravity symbol that I have on my master components list. I will copy that, switch back over to the drawing with the Lite Ranger 1 and paste that in. The center of gravity is 25% of the way back on the wing. So to find that, what I'm going to do is use the parallel line tool. I'll take the wing chord, which is 5.5 multiplied by 0.25, and that will be the center of gravity location. Now we're in the process of drawing the top view of the Lite Ranger. Again, using the parallel line technique, I'll have the fuselage, leading edge of the fuselage by the firewall. And what I'm going to do is just draw half of the fuselage and wing and use the mirror command to draw the full fuselage when done. So 3 inches back is leading edge of the wing. You can see the line to bring in the nose from the leading edge of the wing to the nose. It's a little bit narrower. We'll go ahead and use the breakout tool to trim that up. And now with the parallel tool, 5.5 inches is the chord or width of the wing. You can see the leading and trailing edge of the wing. Then 9 inches is the back of the fuselage. We'll draw that onto the top view, again, just half the view. We can then use the breakout tool to trim the back lines from the fuselage. And we take the line tool again, and with the parallel line tool, draw in some of the interior foam board sections. That's the width of the tail, so now we can use the line tool to connect the trailing edge of the wing to the tail. Again, with the breakout tool, we can now start trimming that up. Go to auto reset. This is just a individual segment. We can select that and delete the key to get rid of that. So again, the top view of the fuselage, half the fuselage, we'll use the mirror command. Now we're using the parallel line tool, and this will be the half the wingspan, 15 inches from that center line. That's the edge of the wing. Using the breakout segment, we can trim that up to start drawing details of the wing. And again, this is a completely flat wing. There's no dihedral. And I did put in a few lightening holes to make the model a little bit lighter, and it'll be a good experiment how to draw that in. Now with a 3/16" parallel tool, we can draw the interior section of the foam board, both with the firewall and the fuselage sides. And again, trimming with the breakout segment tool, just a very powerful feature of TurboCAD to be able to use that to trim. It's just so much, Qcad so much easier than TurboCAD. It just is wonderful. Now we can select these line segments and make them into dashed lines because these fuselage sides are underneath things like the wing. Continuing with the top view of the fuselage, just a little bit of cleanup. These formers, F2 foam board, will make them dashed lines because they're underneath the wing, just for cleaning up the appearance a bit. Now we can start working on the tail. This is the rear end of the horizontal stabilizer. Make sure that that's exactly 90 degrees in the properties menu. Or I should say horizontal, make it 180 degrees. Now we know from our sketch we can use a parallel tool for the leading edge of the stabilizer, which is, well, actually we're going to make the elevator now. That'll be 1 inch, so that'll be 1 inch parallel behind the stabilizer, so we can draw that. And now we can use a parallel tool, 3.5 inches, to make the forward part of the stabilizer just a reference point. You can see the line intersecting the center line at this point. This is another reference point with a parallel tool just for the shape of the stabilizer. A 1/2 inch in, you'll see how that'll work out. And this is the distance out, 4.5, because the total width of the stabilizer is 9 inches. Now we can trim this with the breakout segment tool. And it's okay to use the line tool just with the intersections from the center line to the edge. Now we have the shape of the stabilizer, and we can add another vertical line for the elevator, and then we can clean that up with the breakout segment tool, left clicking. Again, this line was just a reference to do the stab. Don't need this line anymore, just left click and delete. And then the breakout tool again to get rid of these line segments. Now we're going to use the divide to break up this line into segments to do the dashed line underneath the stabilizer. We select it with a left click, then click at the intersection, and you can see we left click. It's a separate segment. We can go to the properties menu, and make it a dashed line to draw the correct fuselage side underneath the stabilizer. At this point, we can start working on the cutouts for the wings. This is just an exercise with the parallel tool and the breakout segment tool. I use about 3 inches for the blocks, 1 inch between them, and just a series of the parallel lines. The vertical ones will do that, then we'll do the horizontal, then trim it up with the breakout segment tool. Now we'll do the similar thing with a parallel tool, this time with the vertical segments. It'll be a 1 inch for the ailerons. That'll come up like that. 1 inch from the leading edge, and then another inch for the actual cutout themselves. That's all done. We go to the breakout segment tool, a very powerful, I call it a trim tool for my TurboCAD days, and just left click, and it just magically gets rid of these extensions even between lines. It's just incredibly useful to use this. Remember, if you make a mistake, no worries, just undo. You'll be right where you were before. And left clicking each one of these lines, it just goes away. Now we'll go back to the idle reset, and the lines, segments on the aileron itself will just be separate entities. We can select those and just get rid of them. Left click delete, left click delete. And then we have to go back to the breakout segment one more time. I just forgot to do this one. There you have the wing coming into view, the top view, half of the fuselage. What we're going to do now is select the entire thing, go to the mirror command. You have to select something. You snap to the top, the bottom, and we're going to keep the original OK, and there we have the completed top view using the mirror command, a very easy way to make something that is symmetrical like a fuselage. Left click the lines on the middle that we used and to get rid of that, and there's a top view of the fuselage. We're going to draw the fin in right now, the vertical fin, so we'll use a center line. And notice with the parallel line tool, it's 3/16 inch wide foam board, so for the width of the parallel, we can type in a formula. In this case, 3-16 times point divided by 2, and that's half the width. So if we do that either side of the center line, we'll have a 3/16 inch representation of the center board, of the vertical fin. Now with the breakout segment tool, we can trim that on the front. We get rid of the center line, and there we have the vertical fin. A little bit of cleanup down below, again with the breakout segment tool, and a very nice representation of that vertical fin. Again, undo command if you make a mistake, and off we go. So that's the fin and rudder shown on the top view. One other thing we have to do is add the 1/16 inch plywood firewall, just 1/16 inch parallel. Notice it's half. We do both, connect it up with a line tool, and there is the fuselage on the top view as well. When you move these very complex things around, you have to be careful. What I oftentimes do is I'll copy it and then paste it to where I want. What I'm doing is rearranging these drawings to make them a little bit more friendly for the final plan. And what I'm doing is for the top view now, like I did on the side view, I'm making a copy. We're going to add the dimensions to that so people can see the measurements if they want to measure it off and build their own. So for example, half of the wingspan is 15 inches right there, 1 foot 3 inches. And it's very easy with the dimension command to add as much as you want to your drawing to make it useful for the builder. Notice there is both a vertical, horizontal, and an angle dimension. You'll just experiment to use the ones that are appropriate. Again, you left click, drag it out. It's really a super easy way to add dimensions to a drawing. Much better than TurboCAD, I might add. All right, so now we're going to start adding things to the finished drawing. I have a description and a 6-inch ruler, so I'm just going to copy these from my master component file, go back to the drawing, right click, and paste, and just put it somewhere at this time. Right click to get out of there. The text is very easy to use. You just double click on it, brings up a dialog box. You can just add whatever you want. It's really quite easy to do, just whatever you think would be appropriate to somebody building this model. One thing that I forgot to do was to add the 2mm carbon rod, which is very important for the strength of the wing. So I'm just drawing that in with a line tool, parallel line tools. Again, it would be easy to have done that before I did the mirror command. And what I did was I located this carbon rod for strength of the wing at 25% back from the leading edge. That is the center of gravity location. I think that kind of makes sense for what we want to do for this model. And again, we're going to use the divide tool. I won't go through everything because it's repetitive. We select the line, go to the intersection, so we can take that long 15-inch line, divide it into segments, because portions of the carbon rod are under the foam board. We want to select those with the property tools, make that a dashed line just for clarity of the drawing. And you can see this is just repetitive how it flows. If the rod is underneath the foam, it should be a dashed line, just the way you draw the plans. So now we're going to draw the ply firewall. I just take measurements and I know the width and the height. I use the box menu for that. So it's the exact size of the firewall. Just a mistake that I made. So here's the firewall located here. Because it's plywood, I'll add some curved lines with the spline tool just to kind of illustrate the grain of the plywood. That's pretty common when you're drawing plans. And this way you can differentiate it from foam boards. So just as a sketch of the spline tool to have some curve on the square section, a rectangular section for the firewall. So we'll put in some random spline curves here and then use the breakout segment tool to trim that up. This is a pretty common drawing technique for different types of wood on your drawing. And there's the firewall. You use the same technique for form as F1, F2, just take measurements, use the rectangular box tool, and you can draw them exactly to the correct size. Now this is a useful tool. It's the leader. We click on that, we left click, get the arrow, another left click to have the tag line, and this is a good way to have a arrow to a item you want to describe, add a text box. In this case it'll be firewall, 1/16 inch ply. This is just a very handy way to illustrate portions of your plan. And snapping to the grids will make it free style, and left click and there is the text tag with the leader to the firewall. Just a very good way to highlight information you want builders to know on your plan. So now we're going to do a little bit of rearranging to make it a little bit more visually attractive for the finished plan. We're going to copy that so we have the originals. We'll go off to the side, right click, paste. Now we can left click, and there everything is in place. We can start doing a little bit of rearranging, because what we want to do is have the dimensioned portion in one sheet and then have the building portion in another sheet. So we'll just rearrange it to make it look a little bit nicer. And what I do is I make it a PDF file. For those that don't have Qcad or a drafting program, they can print that out from the download folder. So now I'm just positioning the top view a little bit closer. I'll put the ruler in a little bit better location, I think, because it's a big thing. I'm going to cut it, right click, and paste it. I think that looks about right. Make it freestyle, then left click. Do the same for the information box. Again, we're just making the plan visually appealing. It's always best to copy something so you have the original in case you do something wrong. You have a recovery game plan. Save from time to time is a good idea. Then we can use the box tool again to draw a box around this plan. We use the parallel tool one more time to make it a double-edged box. I think that makes it look a little bit better, and that's what we do to make it just a little bit more presentable. I just pick a 1/4 inch in for the border of the box. So you do that for each line, and then you use the breakout segment tool to trim that up. And again, it's repetitive action. You do that for each corner, and it just makes it look a little bit nicer, I think. There's a finished box there. Now this view, I've done it for both the dimension view and the top view. I've also added a lot of the leaders with the text description. You can add as much or as little as you want. I just think it helps. You can see the other fuselage formers that I draw in the squares. Again, all the information you need to build this quite simple airplane, and the Qcad plans, this is a great example of how you can use that to your benefit to draw a plan.
Are you okay there?
Yep.